Hey, Rick Sayes here. Welcome to Season 3 of the Outdoor Biz Podcast, recorded at the Surf City Studios in Costa Mesa, California. I have another great season of interviews with retailers, brand managers, athletes, executives, and others in the outdoor biz to share their stories, tips, advice, productivity tricks and hacks, and ideas you can use to take your career business to the next level. Today's podcast is brought to you by InMotion Hosting. I've used InMotion Hosting to host my websites for years. Rick Sayes Photos, blogs, Stillwater's Consulting, and the Outdoor Biz Podcast are all hosted with InMotion Hosting. If your New Year's resolution is to publish a blog, produce a podcast, or simply secure a domain name, go to theoutdoorbizpodcast.com/InMotion and sign up with them today. They make it simple and quick to get a new site up and running with easy installation tools. That's theoutdoorbizpodcast.com/InMotion. Get going today. Hey, we're back after that Independence Day week and excited to speak with Brad Werntz from New Normal Consulting today. We talk about a wide range of topics and he tells us some of the changes at New Normal and some climbing stuff he's up to. Enjoy. Hey, Brad, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, good to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to catch up with you. So let's start out with how you got excited about the outdoors. What was your passionate intro into the outdoor industry?
My parents took me canoeing down the Des Moines River when I was an infant, less than 6 months old. My dad took an old Coleman cooler when they're still made out of metal and inflated an inner tube around it and had me next to the canoe on a canoe trip. And, it's just part of growing up, And then when I was in kindergarten, I had a PE teacher give a slideshow on, of all things, recreational rapelling. And I thought, well, that looks cool. I want to get into vertical ground as soon as I can. And, had a passion for the ocean, had a passion for mountains, had a passion for being outdoors. And I just followed that passion my whole life. And I've been lucky to be here ever since. So
cool.
Here we are.
Fun. Yeah. So you do a lot of outdoor stuff. I'm sure we'll get into that a little later. But what was your first outdoor job? Did you have a traditional outdoor job in retail, or what was that like?
I started, I went to Skinner Brothers Wilderness School in Pinedale, Wyoming. That was Todd Skinner's family's wilderness school. I went there in the late 70s as like an 11-year-old. And I just kept going back. And so by the time I was 13, I was a CIT, basically, a counselor in training. And then from there, I became a guide, a wilderness guide, horse packing, and climbing guide. And I helped guide with their team all over the world. I think it was after a trip to Aconcagua, I first got my first retail job, which was at Air One Mountain Outfitter in Chicago.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And, and then I began writing for the magazines Outside Climbing, Rock and Ice. And as that progressed, I became known as kind of this climber writer guy. And at that time, Outside Magazine was based in Chicago, so I could go down and meet with them frequently. That helped. Yeah. And I was going to school in Chicago. And so I've had some stints in kind of labor, meaning I worked for a lawn mowing crew and worked in the oil fields of Wyoming to finance climbing trips, and done a few stints at food service. But aside from those, I've made 100% of my income in the outdoor industry in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, it seems like once we get connected to it, then we all figure out a way just to hack our way up the chain, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, there's stints back and forth of going out. Okay, I got to make some real money. This is not quite working the way I wanted to. We all have done that, but then eventually it turns into a real gig, and here we are, 30 years later.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I guess your BA in English ties into my next question about how does a guy with a BA in English become a sales rep? But that helped you a ton with your writing career, I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean, the freelance writing was a great avenue. I mean, one of the first things I represented was 510 shoes, and it was one of the first reviews I wrote was for the 510 Summit, which became an iconic, piece, the first $99 climbing shoe. And Karen Peel at the time, now Karen Prana, was the sales manager there, and she saw the review and she needed a rep in the Midwest. She's like, have you ever thought about repping? Are you coming to the Outdoor Retailer Show? And I was like, well, I guess I am now. And I flew out to Reno at the time, and kind of figured out how to be at a show, and not long after that, PMI, which was the U.S. distributor of Petzl at the time, needed a rep, and I met Michael Crook, who was sales manager at Moonstone at the time, and he introduced me to Dion Goldsworthy, who was sales manager at Gregory at the time. And none of these companies had reps, and for a variety of reasons. They were either brand new to the market, like Petzl, or pretty new to the market, like 510, or undergoing some kind of restructuring, like Moonstone and Gregory were. And so I was very lucky in that respect. But a BA in English is good prep for sales. It's good prep for a lot of things. I mean, first, it's a degree in storytelling. It's also a degree in system analysis, meaning I have to be able to look at the whole and kind of pick apart the pieces to see what's going on there. And that's been really invaluable, even more now in my consulting career.
And communicating too. I mean, learning how to write.
Yeah.
We all write. I mean, I don't think people realize when you get into this business how much writing you do, whether you're a sales guy, a marketing guy. You're always, from an email to a sales program. It's a lot of writing.
It's a lot of writing. It's a lot of writing, a lot of critical analysis, a lot of storytelling, outside of writing. Marketing is just basically storytelling on steroids, distilled. So when you get into what what you're trying to convey in a brief period and connect with emotions, I mean, that's poetry, basically.
Right. Yeah.
So.
And you're one of the founding partners at New Normal, and I guess there's been some changes at New Normal. I knew Michael was trying to figure out a way out of there to go all in on adventure travel. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, New Normal Consulting it's been a great opportunity. I mean, first of all, I got to work with two great friends who are also great mentors.
You guys have done some great work too, by the way.
Thank you. It's been it's been really fun, and it was really dynamic, and really loved working with them. And I still am very close to Michael and Jeff. But Michael's got a full-time career of being Michael, which is right now kind of focused on high travel tales. So he gets to travel the world, have adventures, and blog about it. So it's kind of his dream job, and he's been putting more time and attention in that. And so at the start of the year, he decided to step towards that. And Jeff took the opportunity too, and we did some evaluation, and we were doing overlapping projects and working together on a lot of projects. But there were certain things that he wanted to do that really only he does, product development and sales training, for instance. And I work on other aspects of our business, and so they moved on to do their own things. I mean, Michael's gainfully retired, I would say, and I think he would as well. And Jeff's, employed in his own capacity. And so I brought on Sue Timbo, who's another industry veteran, to help with some sustaining clients that we have. And that's been going really well, and just super psyched to see what the future holds for New Normal.
Cool. We'll have to get Sue on the show. That'd be perfect. Yeah,
she's another longtime industry stalwart that does great work. So.
Yeah. Well, that sounds exciting for you guys. That's got to be a kind of a, put a wrap on some great things that you guys have done and move on to different directions and start anew. That's got to be exciting.
It has been. I think we've all been reinvigorated by it.
Yeah,
so, worked together for about 5 years and had a lot of great projects and clients, and here we are.
Yeah, perfect. Good.
So
on to the
still
next
great friends
chapter.
and still have ways to work together. And I think during that time we each found our niche and are pursuing it. So
yeah, that's great. And you're also doing some work with Boulders Climbing Gym. That sounds pretty fun. Tell us about that. That's there in Madison, right? Or in Wisconsin?
It's here in Madison.
Yeah.
Boulders Climbing Gym. My whole background's in climbing. I mean, that's been kind of the heart of my career has been wrapped around climbing in all of its forms. And early in my experience, I climbed big mountains. I was on Everest very young. I climbed Denali a few times. I've climbed Rainier many times, Gannett Peak 8 times. There's a whole list of mountains all over the world that I've been on. And that was climbing for me for a lot of years. And then at the start of the sport climbing era, I got really interested in that. And it really tied in with my life at the time. I had a young daughter, and I wasn't taking 6-week 12-week trips abroad anymore. And, there's sport climbing everywhere. I was living in the Midwest. I grew up in Arizona and Wyoming, and where there's quite a bit of climbing. And, the truth is that there's really good climbing just about everywhere in the country. And there's classic climbing here in Wisconsin. So I got more into climbing as rock climbing movement, sport climbing, bouldering. And we started a climbing co-op in 1991 called the Barn. We converted an old barn outside of Madison.
Yeah. Heard of that, yeah.
And it became kind of a legendary co-op. Yeah. We had pro climbers come in. They'd train with us for a week at a time sometimes. We had these big events. It wasn't a commercial climbing gym, but members paid dues, and we had a labor requirement, and you had to contribute something beyond money to be in the co-op. And in 1996, we opened Boulders Climbing Gym with the help of about 16 friends and family who gave us chunks of money to open. And we're now 21 years old. We're in our 22nd year. We're old enough to drink. Thank you. Right. And last year I bought out our existing investors, and then was able to get new equity financing, and we're opening 2 new gyms in Madison.
Wow, good for you.
Yeah. So for a 21-year-old gym, we climb well, and we climb young, so to speak. And but we're a 21-year-old gym. Modern gyms are bigger, taller, faster, better. Yeah. And so the first gym we're opening is a bouldering gym in downtown Madison, right on the square.
What kind of buildings did you guys find to open something like that?
Well, I mean, initially you had to look for warehouses, and you had to look for the cheapest warehouse you could get. Yeah. And Wisconsin, we don't have manufacturing warehouses or manufacturing structures where you might get a 50 or 60 foot tall building, to serve a certain function. Right. You need to pour molten metal down a long distance, or have pipes that go up in the sky. We didn't have that here in Madison. We had warehouses for storing cheese and produce, basically. So, the tallest we could find was 24 feet. And typically you'd find these at the back end of an industrial park, or by the airport, or some corner of the town that wasn't too nice to be in. And we were unique. We had some frontage. We were one of the first dozen climbing gyms in the country. We had frontage on major highways.
Oh.
But we're a 24-foot gym, and we got as much as we thought as we could take. Originally 8,500 square feet. So we were a small, short climbing gym here in the Midwest. And modern climbing gyms are built from the ground up. They're 60 feet tall, or 50 feet tall at a minimum, basically, and they're 20 to 25,000 square feet, and that's what we have on the horizon. But this space downtown is really exciting. It's part of a rehab of a downtown city block that's taken about 6 years, they built a 10,500 square foot space in it that had 14-foot ceilings and giant windows and skylights, and right in the heart of downtown, and it was just too good to pass up. So
those are always great projects to be involved in.
Yeah, it was super exciting, and it's as it turns out, it's right in the building where my office is. So
perfect.
So I didn't even have to move. So
awesome.
Super excited about it. That one's opening in October, and then the large standalone gym will probably open in 24 to 30 months.
Cool. Well, we'll link to that in the show notes. That's awesome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, congratulations. Got to be a fun project. So who are some of the people that inspire you, whether they're either in the industry or out of the industry? Who have been some of your motivators?
Oh, man, I've been really lucky to have really good mentors, both in my career and in my personal life. So, I have to say that, the Skinner brothers inspired and mentored me, and they still do. They're the surviving brothers are now in their mid 80s, and they're still, or 90 even. They're still super inspiring. Monty Skinner turned 90, bought a new pair of skis, and took gold in a ski race at Jackson Hole. So cool. He's still out getting after it. Todd was a friend and mentor and a brother to me for my whole life, and so I think of him or dream about him just about every day. So he's done great work. I've known a lot of great people in this industry. Jeff Taven popped up in my feed. I lived with him for a period when I was in college at Northwestern, and he had a house in Evanston, and he's done great work with his philanthropy, taking vision to parts of the world that have health issues, meaning that he does eye surgery in Africa and Nepal and all over the planet. So it's nice to think about what he's up to. And then I'm just inspired by those who pursue excellence and pursue what they do with all the passion in the world. So
awesome.
There's a whole list of those people.
A lot of people in this industry that do that, isn't there? I mean, outside too.
Yeah.
It's just, we all are fortunate to run across some pretty amazing folks in the course of a life. It's pretty awesome.
What I like about the outdoor industry in particular is we're all here by choice. And so you have people who could have been anything, college professors or lawyers or doctors or teachers or professional athletes. And they're here by choice, sometimes in the same niche. I mean, the professional climbers we have could have been and sometimes have been, high-end gymnasts or pole vaulters or athletes in other endeavors. So they could have made their mark in any sport they choose, probably. But the thought leaders in our industry are brilliant. You've got people with masters and PhDs and high-end degrees, and they choose to be here and put their passion into their daily existence.
Yeah,
that's been.
Go ahead.
That's just been always really inspiring to me to come across people who I have a PhD in chemical engineering, but I found that making gear was my passion. So that's what I'm doing. So,
well, and those of us that have been in the industry as long as you and I have, I think it's amazing to look back and, the industry got created by, us and a lot of folks much smarter than us and much more involved than us. But it's just, it's phenomenal how it's become this, engine. And it's great to see that it continues on, and the new folks coming in, the venture out section at OR, it's always fun to see the newbies. So it's pretty fun. It's pretty cool. We're very fortunate.
It is fun. We're very fortunate. It's a very big, very developed yet very small industry.
Right. Yeah.
So you always know somebody who knows somebody.
Yeah.
And which is great considering 25,000 of us or so gather in a room here in a month.
Exactly.
1 degree of separation between all of us. That's really inspiring.
Yeah, pretty phenomenal. And what gets you out of bed every day?
Yeah, I get up excited every day. The projects I'm working on are super exciting. I find I need to work creatively. I mean, my degree is in English, but it was in the art end of English. I have a degree in fiction and a degree in poetry. And so being able to work creatively using all of my brain and all my heart is really important to me. Cool. And whether it's choosing tile for the new gym or, choosing a light fixture for that, or sitting down and trying to solve a problem that's never been solved before, in a way that's never been done. I find that super exciting. We just wrapped up a project for the city of Aspen that worked with data sets that had never been tapped that are just so rich. It blew us away. And that was a super exciting project because it was like, wow, there's these 40,000 people nobody's ever talked to about this one thing. Wow, and we just got killer data out of it. And that's exciting to go to work about. But, more than work gets me up. I like to be outside. I like to do things. I like to enjoy the seasons and be with my kids and my family and friends and still keep after it.
Good. Yeah. So, keep getting out there. That's awesome. And tell us about some nonprofit work. You guys do work with various nonprofit orgs, I'm sure.
Yeah, there's a few layers to that. I mean, I've been a part of the Outdoor Industry Association Recreation Advisory Committee since its founding, and we do a lot of work, with the policies and politics of outdoor recreation, whether it's access to land or trade and tariffs or close to home recreation. We've been doing a lot of work lately with, getting the director of outdoor recreation posts filled in the states. So we do a lot of lobbying with state and local governments as well as, national government every chance we get. So it's been really a passion-driven part of what I do. I get to talk with smart people in a room who know everything there is to know about the Land and Water Conservation Fund or
been
about
keeping you busy lately, huh?
Yeah. Full on, really.
Yeah,
We've been
it's all hands
really
on deck.
active with that.
Yeah.
But at New Normal, we support the Conservation Alliance, and then at Boulders, we've had this interesting problem that's been a fun thing to solve by using not-for-profit work. Boulders it's just too small for the market, and it has been for a long time. So we haven't been able to advertise. It's not like I can take an ad in the paper and say, hey, come get a birthday party at Boulders, because every time we bring new people into the gym, it really upsets our members, which is a high percentage of our revenue. So, but yet we still have to advertise and get people in. So what we've chosen to do is do cause marketing. So what we do every month is we pick a charity and have a fundraiser, and we wrap a whole month's worth of events around that. And in turn, they email their constituents, say, hey, Paws for Puppies, Boulders is having these events this month, and you go in, you get half off climbing. We're going to have puppies there. Come see the puppies. And we donate all the money we earn from that back to the in this case, the
partner.
The partner. And, we get access to their mailing list, and we get new people in the gym, and our members aren't psyched when 100 people show up to have a day pass. But
at least they know it's coming, right? I mean, that you can put it on the calendar, and they can choose to stay away that day or support it. That's a great idea. I love that.
So we've been raising for the past several years, $1,000 to $1,200 a month, $1,400 a month for Boys and Girls Club. This month it's Pride Month, so we have G-Safe, which is an organization that keeps, LGBTQT plus teenagers, gives them a space to go when they don't feel safe for whatever reason. That's one of the things that they do. So we're raising money for them, and we've been able to do it for hurricane relief. We've been able to do it for earthquake relief. Just whatever the cause of the day is.
A lot of opportunities really for that flexible. Too.
Yeah. So that's been really fun, and we're going to continue with that. The grand opening of the gym downtown will involve several local homeless shelters and the YWCA, which is across the street, and just try to raise as much money as we can for our neighbors. So that's been really fun.
That's awesome. And so, in addition to climbing, what other outdoor activities do you do? I'm become, while I'm a climbing specific, let's say that's been my major driver. I've really done literally everything. I mentioned, I have a whole background in horse packing, and I worked in the elk hunting camp during that period, and hunting was really important to me growing up, and fishing. So those continue. I still hunt and fish. But at the other end of the spectrum, I've done 4 Ironman triathlons. I'm really still involved with all 3 disciplines of that sport. I think I may do another one in a couple of years. I figure I should do my 5th when I turn 55. So I have a couple of years to prep for that. So that gets me outside. I love longboarding on my skateboard. I have one of the first stand-up paddle boards in Madison. It's still under my feet, pretty much 2 or 3 times a week during the summer. Trail running, take the kids camping. We just try to be outside and on the water, paddling, canoes, kayaks, but preferred water sport is stand-up paddling. It's just such an intimate way to be on the water. You can just slide off your board, get in, swim around, get back on. I haven't done that yet. That's cool. Yeah.
It's an event when you go in the water on a canoe. Something. It's like, this is a problem solved. But on a stand-up board, it's part of the deal. You just sit down and slide into the water and get back up. It's pretty nice.
I need to get on that program. I haven't done that yet.
I've been doing it a long time. I think I've had my board for 14 years.
Oh wow! So you were an early adopter. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. It's beat up. I don't even have to lock it anymore. It's so beat up, but it still works just fine.
As
it's
long as it
sun,
floats,
sun
right?
bleached, and it floats and paddles great.
There you go. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
And do you have any suggestions or advice for folks either wanting to get into the business, or maybe if they're already in, they want to grow their career?
I get that question a lot, and we got it a lot during the recession, and it was just kind of, you get a call from somebody who might have been in a completely different career, insurance or advertising, and they're like, it's kind of a struggle in my career. If I have to restart here, I may as well restart where my passion is. And my advice was always, follow that passion. It's challenging to do it midlife. I know people who've done that and done it successfully, but you kind of have to start at the basics and then network up really quickly, which means get a job for retail, even if it's a part-time job, and just wedge that out. Because, it's going to be difficult, even if you've sold, $10 million worth of insurance every year. It's going to be really difficult to translate that into a rep career, or or the more lucrative.
There's an authenticity piece, I think, that people see right through if you're in your early days, right? It's easy to overcome that once you've
authenticity.
Chops,
I think authenticity is part of it. I think also connection is really a part of it. I mean, I'm on the younger end of the founders. I'm Gen X, and most founders in our industry are boomers. So, I kind of have been on the lower end of the coattails of giants, literally Paul Petzl or Wayne Gregory or, many others. And so, knowing them has helped me to know people who are younger as well. But you got to just kind of wade in and start meeting people and go to the events, go to the trade shows, but also the non-trade events.
Right.
It's kind of too bad that we don't do Rendezvous anymore. I think.
Yeah, that was a pretty good networking environment. And really, this is a whole nother conversation. We don't want to go too deep into it, but outdoor retailer has kind of become pretty much a networking activity, right? Reconnecting, networking, learning about a lot of exciting new products and new things, but it's more of the gathering of the tribe than it was. It's always been the gathering of the tribe, but I remember when it first started back in the Reno days, it seemed like we generated a lot more sales back then. Now it's a lot more activity, which is all, I think does a lot of good to result in sales, but it's changed.
I agree. It's changed. It's changed in their marketing. I mean, I think we've all adopted the language. The gathering of the tribes is really what it's about, and it's super important. It's been kind of interesting to see. I mean, again, a whole rabbit hole we don't have to go down to, but one of the things about changing venues from 20 plus years in Salt Lake to Denver is it's pretty much a great leveler. We're all looking for that new spot. Where before we had our kind of trap lines of events we'd go to, and we went to this party this night, and we went to this dinner the other night, and we all had different trap lines, but they overlapped, and we all made different choices. But with like New Normal, we could each go to 3 different events and then come back and report on who we talked to and what we've done. So in Denver, we don't have that. We're still kind of creating the DNA of that show, and so the events are completely scrambled, and it's forcing all of us to, find our tribe again. And, it's a more diffuse environment with a lot more going on in downtown Denver. So I think the net result is it's a really good time to get into the industry because, we're all kind of rewriting, our playbook.
Yeah, it's going through another dynamic, change opportunity right now where we got a little, I don't want to use the word stale, but we got a little comfortable at Salt Lake after 20 years, and now we've got to find everything anew again, and it's created a lot of dynamic energy at the show, at least the first one.
Yeah, and so if people are interested in getting into the industry, I mean, I've been encouraging people who are in kind of overlapping unrelated industries like fixtures and marketing, and they wanted to branch out into outdoor. That requires less authenticity. It requires a lot more resume. Hey, we worked for Target, we've worked for Comedy Central, we worked for you name the mainstream company, MTV. I have a friend who does that, and they have an outdoor wing to their business, and this is a really good time to step into that because of all this flux that's going on.
I agree.
And so, just any advice, just step in, make it happen.
There you go.
The water's fine, and now's a really good time. So.
That's good advice. And you sound like a pretty learned guy. Do you do a lot of reading? Do you have any favorite books you can recommend to our audience, or do you give books as gifts very often?
I do give books as gifts, and one of the books I gave a lot of, is "Let My People Go Surfing" from
Mm-hmm.
Yvonne Chouinard. I think that that's good for people who are interested in the industry and interested in doing a more holistic business. The 4-Hour Work Week from Tim Ferriss has been I keep revisiting that. It's not something you want to adopt. We have to work 40, 60 hours in our industry, but you can certainly be more effective with some of the techniques there.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I just cracked for the first time Anthony Bourdain's Kitchen Confidential, just based on current circumstances. So many people gave so many, really moving testimonials that I'd only recently come to know him. My father-in-law loves Food Network and loves food shows, and he comes and stays with us for a length of time every year. And we were watching some of his shows just a few months ago, and I was like, wow, that guy's pretty amazing. And then he passed, and so I picked up that book. But I'm versed in classics. My wife and I have several thousand books in the house. Cool. I pick up a few of them over time. I seem to be more drawn back to poetry and short form books. The books that are really have enjoyed and read cover to cover, the long narratives, the Lonesome Dove series by Larry McMurtry, of course, Tolkien and Lord of the Rings, and Harry Potter. What an amazing world. Books where you leave the characters wondering what they're doing today. I really enjoy, like, I wonder what's up with Gus and Call right now.
You put them down, you jump back into that world at the end of the day. Yeah, it's awesome.
So, I like all of
and how about
those, but I have to admit I read less than I should anymore.
I think we all do these days. Yeah, I think it's some of these guys. I think someone said Bill Gates reads 100 books. I don't know, some phenomenal number of books a year. It's like, man, dude, how do you find the time? But
it's hard.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's hard for sure.
How about your favorite piece of outdoor gear under $100?
It's funny. I became a rep twice for things I was passionate about for gear that cost less than $100.
Okay.
So the first time was, in the 90s, early 2000s, I got really into fast packing and long distance trail running, solo runs. I ran, rim to rim at the Grand Canyon. I ran 50 miles in southern Utah. I ran 75 miles in the Wind Rivers, among other things. And I went on this trip once. I was like, I'm going to be solo for a long time. I should have something in case I twist an ankle. So I picked up a pair of trekking poles from Lakey.
Okay.
And I was like, wow, I can go so much faster, so much easier. I can go in the dark, not worry about where I'm placing my feet. If I step on something that's going to twist my ankle, just let the leg go limp and let the pole catch me. And I came back and I was telling that, a friend goes, hey, how was your run in the Wind Rivers? I said, hey, it was awesome, but let me tell you about my poles. I gave like a 10-minute dissertation on my poles, and he just smiled and said, the guys from Lakey just called me and said, hey, do you know anybody who would want to be our rep? And I'm so happy I gave them your name.
Oh, perfect.
I got that, and I worked with Lakey for a long time.
Nice.
And then the other one I really like is, it was originally a Clean Canteen, but I like Hydro Flask too. Their insulated cups are just amazing, a game changer. I went bouldering in Waco Tanks one winter with my first Clean Canteen insulated coffee cup, and I liked iced coffee, and it was hot there, and I bought some iced coffee and drank it down and left the cup in the car, and inside the car probably got to 100, 110 degrees that day, and I came back at the end of the day, and not only is there ice still in the cup, it was all still crisp, and I really only had one swallow of water. I was like, this thing's magic. I can't even pick up the cup. It's so hot with the metal, and the ice is still inside perfect. So those two things, trekking poles and insulated mugs, are just, they're magic to me.
Yep. I love the Hydro Flask.
Magic.
Since I have had bad knees, poles have saved my life on many a hike.
Yeah.
As we wrap up here, is there anything else you'd like to ask of our listeners or say to our listeners?
Well, in terms of asking, I just like to ask, these days I spend a lot of my time thinking about the future of retail. We're doing a lot of work in that space between online and brick and mortar. And I think that there's a untapped and completely, beyond viable, like a lucrative space there that's not been conceived of yet. So, we tend to come down to one or the other. Well, we're in e-commerce or we're brick and mortar. Right. And we make forays into each, but there's a space that's going to be in between. And I just like to ask people, in this industry in particular, what do you think that looks like? How would you define that if you were to find, call it an undiscovered country, that space between those two, well-plowed, well-mapped locations, there's a hybrid that's going to come forward. And I would just ask if you have an idea of what you think that looks like. I'd love to hear it. I get emails all the time from people who, hey, I was thinking, I heard you're working on this. Here's my thoughts about it. I just love to hear any thoughts from anybody about what that might look like and how that might be realized is for our industry in particular. Because the big guys are working on it. Amazon's rumored to be eyeing Target right now. They've already bought Whole Foods. So they're going to be solving this, but they're not going to be doing it in a way that's scalable for specialty industries like ours. So we're going to have to hack it and make our own solutions. And I would just challenge people to say, how can we do that?
Yeah, no, what's that
awesome.
Look like? Yeah, that's helped create the vision board. Yeah, because it is. I think you're right. It's, we're in the first inning of a, probably extra inning game, and it evolves pretty rapidly. But it's going to be totally different, even 3 years from now, as technology changes. It's just phenomenal. So. Yep. Yeah, cool. And so, how can people find you if they want to reach out and follow up? Is email the best?
Yeah, email's great. Brad at newnormalconsulting.com.
Okay, we'll link to that in the show notes.
Is easy, and or Brad at bouldersgym.com. Both of them get me. I used to be super active on Twitter with my rep agency Pemba Serves. We were early adopters and market leaders in Twitter, but mostly I'm on Twitter every day, but mostly as a news aggregator. As a reader, I don't post as much as I used to.
Same.
But email's a really good way.
Cool. We'll link to that in the show notes.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks, Brad. It's been great catching up with you.
Well, thank you, Rick. I appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity. This is a great format and really fun to answer these questions. So thanks for putting some thought into that.
Yeah, thanks. And we'll see you soon at the show, hopefully.
Yeah, great.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Brad Werntz. You can catch up with Brad by email at brad@newnormalconsulting.com and learn more about what he's up to. You'll find links to everything we discussed in the show notes at theoutdoorbizpodcast.com/episode 118. Be sure to hit your favorite podcast app and subscribe today. Thanks for listening. Today's podcast is brought to you by WordPress. I've used WordPress to build a number of websites, including Stillwater's Consulting and the Outdoor Biz Podcast. There are a number of themes and plugins available both free and for purchase, enabling you to easily create the custom look and feel you want. If you're starting an online business, publishing a blog, and looking to take your online presence to the next level, visit theoutdoorbizpodcast.com/WordPress and get going today. With simple installation tools and thousands of themes to choose from, you'll be up and running in no time. Go to theoutdoorbizpodcast.com/WordPress and get your site launched today. If you want more of the Outdoor Biz Podcast, you can subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. Be sure to go to theoutdoorbizpodcast.com where you'll find all the links to the episodes, show notes, and much, much more. And be sure to make time to get outside and take someone with you.